I was born in Toronto, and I kind of grew up in America. So I lived there for a good chunk of my life. And so my family's West Indian, so like Jamaican side of me, Barbados side, and then Canada and America. So I got the wide gambit. I got everything.
All right. So, what's going on in Canada with this pandemic? It's
Whew.
crazy out here in America, man.
It is absolutely crazy because people, I think we're at the point now where everyone's starting to get really restless, and especially people in entertainment. They're like, we gotta go, we gotta do something. Like this is crazy, and so the government because we're not like America where the government kind of pays for a lot more things because we have healthcare and that kind of thing. So early on, during all this stuff happened, the government gave everybody checks. So people were like, okay, cool. Let's just see how this goes for a little bit. And then slowly but surely, everyone's like, wait a minute, what's happening here? So this is where we're at right now, where everybody's just kind of like we're getting extra restless about getting back to work, and because they shut everything down.
It's weird,
Bars are
man.
like,
It's weird because I heard in Germany, like, when this pandemic broke out, they
mm,
just gave everyone checks, even creatives, even people who like artists who, you know, didn't have like a real 9 to 5 job, and they just gave everyone checks, even those sort of guys. Here in America, they had
yeah.
some sort of a stimulus, but it sort of ran out, and it's weird here in America, man.
Well, the thing was for Canada, they had a limit. It's like around $5,000 or five. You had to make $5,000 in taxes, and so if you met that for this in particular instance, they're like, we'll take care of you for I think it was like 6 months, and that ran out already. So now
Right,
it's like it's go time. So a lot of people are just casually like, oh, the government will figure it out. It'll be fine. Now they're like, okay, all right, we gotta roll up
right.
our sleeves now.
They
So
gave
that's
us, I
that's really
think,
how it came.
the stimulus checks were certain individuals who made a specific income. They
Hmm.
received a one-time check of twelve hundred
Yeah.
dollars, and then married couples received like $2,400, and then
Hmm.
the unemployed received an extra $600, I think, weekly.
Yeah.
But then that all ran out, and now it's just like people are just like, it's about to run out like at the end of the year, end of this month, and people are like, well, what are we going to do? And they're talking about, like, maybe
Hmm.
an additional 10 to 12 million people will be unemployed, lose their apartments.
Yeah, it's
And
insane.
it
It's
is
absolutely
crazy,
insane.
dude, out here, man. I am
Because
telling you.
the majority of my family lives in America,
Mhm.
so like I'm up on all that stuff. I know everything is going on. Like I call them, like I have family in Georgia, I have family in New York, I have family in Michigan, California, Washington,
Mhm.
North Carolina. Like it's all over Florida, and I'm getting updates like, oh boy, because I was earlier this year. I was supposed to head down there to do some work because I do photography and all this other stuff as well.
Mhm.
So I was gonna go down there because in the winter is my kind of slowdown season, and I'm really busy in the summer. So like from January right after New Year's is like my last gig, and then from January to maybe February March it's kind of slow, and then I pick up again because I'm a mobile DJ, so I do mostly corporate stuff,
Okay.
and so I was going to take this little time in January and February earlier this year to go down there and go visit family and work. And then this stuff happened. I'm like, oh, so like I was like, okay, well, we'll see how it goes, and then maybe we'll kind of work it off in July, and it just kept going and going, and now here we are. We're in like December, so
It's
yeah, it's
weird
been
because,
wild.
it's like, first of all, I was watching your videos and I was like, this guy
Hmm.
sounds like I'm originally from New Jersey, even though I live here in the
Okay,
Washington, D.C. area. And I was like, this guy sounds
yeah.
like he has a New York accent. I mean, did you live in New York for a minute or what?
Yeah. I was in New York for off and on for like a couple years
Okay.
because well, it's a long story, but I was a part of a group that they had a record deal with Elektra. We were signed to a Q-Tips label museum, and
Okay.
so we were down there recording. So I was back and forth between Canada and there, and then I slowly, after that fell through, I started producing music heavy. So I've been in New York a long time, just shopping beats at the labels and just traveling. So between New York, Virginia, and um, Atlanta,
Okay.
I've been
Which
going
which
back and
part of
forth doing music.
Virginia?
Oh man, it was like it was by I can't remember the name. It's around Norfolk.
Oh, okay, like Richmond, St. Petersburg, all
Yeah,
those
yeah,
sort of
we're
places.
yeah,
Newport Beach. Okay.
yeah, yeah, and then that kind of area. It's been a minute. I've been down there in like 15 years, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a minute. But like around that area, but
Mhm.
primarily I was in New York and in Georgia.
Okay.
So my
Well,
brother-in-law lives in Georgia, and my sister and my family. So like
oh my
I'm back and forth there. Yeah.
dude, it's so crazy. You're like talking about New York. I'm from New Jersey, the tri-state area. You're talking about
Okay.
Virginia. I went to school in Richmond, and I hung out a lot,
Okay.
like in Hampton and everything else. And
Hmm.
my on my mother's side, they're from Georgia as well. So
Okay.
it's this trifecta going on with us. It's
Well,
crazy.
I find like all of the music was from these places.
Hmm.
Virginia had Neptunes, Timberland, Missy. All those people were from there.
Yeah.
Bink is from there. That's my connection to Virginia. And
Okay.
my sister moved from New York. So my sister lived in Brooklyn,
Hmm.
and then she moved down to Virginia. So that was there for a bit. And then my brother and I were part of a production company called the Aristocrats, and we changed our name from Organic Music to Aristocrats. And we were working with Bink at the time, and so Bink had a house in New Jersey and a house in Virginia,
Hmm.
and so I would come from Toronto and go to New Jersey to shop beats with him there, or if he was in Virginia, we would go down to his house down there to just chop up stuff or whatever, and sometimes just to hang out because
Wow.
he's a cool dude. So we would just be down there and just to listen to music and
Hmm.
just talk or hang out, whatever, just because. So it's a mess. I have a wild connection to the music industry
Hmm.
because we had this record company, or we had the group. We're part of like a further part away of Tribe, so we're kind of connected to that. I've known Five since like '92, so I was his funeral, I was the memorial, all that stuff. Um, and so we did that, and then I have this stuff for production and working with Bing, and then my brother-in-law is Super Dave West, and he did all the stuff with De La. And so like I'm just all over the place when it comes to music and production.
I
That's why
see.
for my YouTube channel,
Hmm.
I talk about DJing, but there's a layer of production underneath it because of like my history with all this stuff and kind of my
Okay.
connections with all these people too.
Wow. Well, you know what? Let's get into this interview, man. So, listen, let's start off by letting everyone know who you are. What is it that you do? And I
Okay.
know you have a fabulous YouTube channel. So, just let
Thank
everyone
you for
know
that.
what's going on.
So, DJ Keo, I'm from Toronto, and basically, I've been a producer from like '98 until recently, and I've been DJing for 15, 20-ish years. I started DJing in high school, and then I had a break. I had a falling out with some friends and stuff like that. So I was like, I don't care about DJing, whatever. So I just stopped, and I was focusing on producing. For production, the first song I was sold was to Swizz Beats on his first album. I forgot the album's called right now.
Mhm.
In my life, not in my lifetime. It was stories, something about stories.
Mhm.
And I did the song with LL Cool J and Mashonda. He was married to Mashonda at the time, and so I worked with a little bit with Rough Riders, and it just moved on to, well, I still like DJing. I got called in to do some stuff, and people knew I was still DJing off and on, whatever. And so I started moving away from production around the time when I guess the entertainment for production stopped falling off. Like people weren't really looking into producers. It was just kind of anybody can do it. And when Fruity Loops became heavy or whatever, so I kind of moved away from that and I started going back to DJing heavy. And so that's been my focus as of the last, I guess, 10 years, primarily just DJing. And I
Okay.
started the channel like 5-ish years ago. And initially I started the channel just to vent and just talk about my feelings about stuff. So you can tell like a lot of the earlier videos, I talk about politics with
Right.
the production and
Hmm.
music industry. And but the thing that people really came back and forth was for me to say like a hot take about gear. That's the thing that people really wanted me to talk about. So that's
Right.
kind of where the focus has been for my channel as of late.
I see you have like the State of the Union, you know, where you go into you sort of do your deep dives into gear and everything like that. Let's talk about some gear really quickly, DJ
Yeah.
gear, because it's really rare that not rare, but you know, when I'm interviewing a DJ, me of
Mhm.
course being a DJ myself and a producer, so I do consider myself a DJ producer because I've been doing that for such a long time. It's always
Mhm.
cool to just do some deep diving with the DJ. So let's talk about some DJ software. So we have the three majors. We have Recordbox, Serato,
Mhm.
and I don't know what the third one is. I'm gonna say Virtual DJ because
Yeah, I was about to say that too.
I just kind of think that Native Instruments Tractor, they sort of screwed everyone around when they
Yeah.
just dropped the ball on Tractor, then went into the whole production side. So
Yeah.
we have the three majors. We have Rekordbox, Serato, and also Virtual DJ. So
Mhm.
where do they sit? I mean, I know here in America we use like a lot of the scratch DJs use Serato. A lot of the mixed DJs use
Yeah. Down
Rekordbox.
record box. Yeah.
Virtual DJ, I do have all three. I tried Virtual DJ out. I used to play around with Virtual DJ years ago, but now I have the latest and greatest version. And there is a lot of tech behind
Yeah.
Virtual DJ. Explain that.
Okay. I did a video about like my feelings about virtual DJ. I believe virtual DJ is probably the most powerful, most innovative DJ software, and I can't get into it for some reason. I don't like it. There's just something about it. I don't know if it's the layout or it doesn't feel as polished or I don't know what it is. There's just something there's like a mental block, and it's not because I talk about it on my channel a lot. We have DJs are elitists,
Yeah,
and
we
we
are.
follow whoever is if everyone has a MacBook, a lot of DJs well I'll just get a MacBook. That's the standard. That used to be the standard for 1200s,
Yeah,
and so what I look at virtual DJ as when Serato became the standard people liked it and people use it to be different, but like there's just some kind of connection that people can't get. And I cannot put my finger on it. I've asked everybody about, I know a couple of DJs who use virtual DJ and they love it, but they kind of hide it. Like they put skins on it and they're changing
right.
it.
Yeah,
They're not like loud because when people use Serato, they're loud and proud. They're like Serato,
yeah.
record box. They're loud and proud.
Mhm.
And virtual DJ, they're making skins to change it into. And I'm gonna get flamed for this because virtual DJ people, they're very passionate about it, and I totally understand because I'm passionate about Native Instruments and Tractor because that's been my main go to software for the
But
minute.
but let me stop you right there because
Yeah.
okay, if you said Tractor is one of your go tos, but you still
Mhm.
didn't have that in your top three. Now, why is it in your top three?
Well, my issue with Tractor is that I believe the company Native Instruments has let it down,
Yes,
and
exactly. That's
it's
exactly the problem with Tractor.
yeah, it's not the actual software because I feel at this point you can basically use any DJ software to blend two songs together and do
Yeah,
effects, and they can all handle it right now. Tractor is cutting edge for some things, but they're not pushing the envelope in other things. Like for instance, Beat Source.
right.
I was talking to Styles from Beat Source, and he was like, "Well, we reached out to them, and they just never got back to us." I'm like, "That's insane! Like, this is the future for
Oh
everything.
my
The,
goodness.
the streaming services." I'm like, "You guys you're not even on the radar. Like, you could talk about all of the other DJ software. They're all like BeatSource. We're using BeatSource or Tidal or Spotify,
Mhm.
something. And Tractor's like they're going in their own pace. And so that's for me, that's the reason why I would say like it's Serato, Rekordbox, and Virtual DJ.
Yeah.
Whereas I prefer Tractor to Virtual DJ. The other thing that annoys me about Tractor is that Tractor is not supported by a lot of controllers, whereas Virtual DJ is literally supported by anything.
Everything, I mean,
Literally anything.
anything, I'm a tech person, by trade.
Yeah. Mhm.
And again, the technology that's inside of Virtual DJ is just completely amazing. But you made a very good point.
Brilliant.
When I opened it up and I started playing with it, I just couldn't
Mhm.
get into it.
Yes. I don't
And
know
it's
what it is.
and
The
it's
layout.
the tech is there,
Yeah.
and it sort of is laid out like a lot of other DJ softwares, but not
Mhm.
really. I don't
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just like subconsciously overwhelmed by the tech, right?
I don't
Um,
know because you use all the other gear and other DJ software. I don't know if he's overwhelmed. I think that it needs an overhaul. Like all of this DJ software has done an overhaul for the layout. Like Rekordbox has done an overhaul. Serato's done one. Tractor's done one. Virtual DJ has still it has a vibe of amateur, and I know people are gonna get mad about this because I
but
still
it's
at the
it's
bottom of my
seriously
heart,
pro though, even though it has a
yeah,
vibe as amateur, it's seriously
exactly.
pro.
Is I said this before, is the most powerful DJ software on the market right now.
Yeah.
They're pulling stems apart and taking the sounds out of the songs in the software.
That's the AI. They're doing that
Yes.
inside of they're doing that inside of their software, and Rekordbox
Yeah.
and Serato will bite that like process
Eventually they're gonna get
that
around
feature
to it.
right. Excuse
But
me.
these guys did it first. There's a
Yeah,
lot of
they did it
features they
first.
did first.
Well, like what is it? The DJ app by I think it's
Mhm.
Algorithm. They actually have
Yeah.
it too, like in their app. The
Yeah.
thing about that is, I mean, it's cool and everything. I mean, you definitely. I love the fact that companies and developers and programmers
Mhm.
are just giving DJs like all of this creativity, just
Yeah.
all of this like coolness when it comes to like things like separating stems. Because originally, remember, you
Mhm.
know, Tractor came out with their sort of like, hey, we have stems, and then they dropped
Mhm.
off, and then the technology behind stems got so much
Yeah.
better because Tractor was selling stems. There were
Yeah.
companies that were selling stems that would work exclusively with Tractor. But now the technology has like evolved, and it's
Mhm.
like we don't need to buy stems because now we can
Yeah.
just separate what we want.
Yeah, use your song that you already have and do and that I that's my complaint about stems. I was like, you had the software, you had the hardware, and you did it before anybody else.
Right.
I think there's two things. One, it was too early to
Hmm.
the game, and they came out with hardware without jog wheels. Those two things people had a problem with.
Who
And the
does
other
that?
problem was,
Hmm.
yeah, I know. And the other problem was is that they couldn't get top 40 type artists and regular your Jay-Z, your Beyonce, they couldn't get them on board. So
Right.
you had obscure dance music and that kind of thing. And so like it works there, it worked perfectly, and everybody who liked it, they worked. But you couldn't reach the mobile DJs, you couldn't reach the in-house club DJs or the
Right.
bars and those kind of people because the music that you wanted to play with, they wasn't accepting stems. Or you could make it yourself, but it was like a process
Right.
because there was an
Right.
app for it and you could line everything up and do it yourself. But like nobody wanted to do that.
I
So
think the
I
other
I
thing
would say,
is with Tractor, it was almost like it was like a lot of the festival DJs use Tractor.
yeah, yeah,
So it
yeah.
was just like, you had the big festival DJs, and they had it going on. They had the rigs, they had all the different modules. It
Hmm.
was a modulated sort of like DJ setup. It was like really hooked up. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of sad. Let me ask you this here. So again, we know that as DJs, that virtual DJ is probably is the most powerful DVS DJ software that's out there.
Hmm.
Do you think I think this? I want to ask you your opinion. Do
Hmm.
you think that in music brand will purchase virtual DJ?
Whew, I don't know, because they have Denon Engine Prime. I think they're going to try and incorporate whatever's with Engine Prime and make that be the standard going forward for all the brands.
Mm-hmm.
For because they have Rain. Is it Newmark? I can't remember which one they have. I think they have.
Listen, in music brand, I was watching one of your videos, and you really hit
Yeah.
on this. Like, in music brand is they're making the acquisitions that make sense when it comes to DJs and just all of the components that DJs
Yes.
need. You know,
Exactly.
they have
Yeah, they're getting
Denon,
all the parts.
right? They have all the parts, and you also made a very good point in one of your videos that Prime, Engine isn't ready.
Yes. Yeah.
But I do think that it is possible to acquire a company like Virtual DJ, which is kind of huge in places like France and other European countries. Acquire a company like Virtual DJ and then incorporate it, incorporate it into Engine, and now you have a new engine. What do you think about that?
I think that's possible. I think that most likely they will probably take parts of it. Like how Microsoft, whatever, or Google, they'll buy a company and then strip it for parts and then just
Right.
incorporate it into YouTube or Google. I think they're trying to focus on this Engine Prime brand, and so there's things that Virtual DJ does well, and that Engine Prime is still struggling with, like the library stuff and the analyzing things. They're not. It's almost there. I look at Engine Prime as a thing it's like 3 updates away from being a problem for Serato and Record
You
Box.
said just 3. I'm thinking, it's just like
I mean, 3 major updates though. There's like a 1.1 and a 2.1, whatever. But
it sort of started
like,
out.
almost there.
It started out like Rekordbox, which was just like a way that you can sort of like manage your music, create playlists, crates, and things of that nature. And now that's what Engine's doing, and it is getting better. But you also see that, software, a company like Denon, also Virtual DJ, all of these companies now, are integrated with, sort of streaming services like, I do that in quotes because some of them aren't streaming services, but like Tidal and like Beatport Link and BSource Link and everything like that, and I think that I just kind of feel that would be a really good acquisition for Denon.
I think the problem for Denon, or how they position their thing, is that all of their gear, except for I think it's the 8000, the controller, the 8000, is that all of their gear is designed to be in box. So everything's all in one.
Yeah.
So like the Prime 2, the Prime 4, they're all designed so that you use your engine software to organize, and then you export it into the controller, and that's the last you look at Engine Prime again. And so they're at the point where Rekordbox started with, we're just organizing, and slowly Rekordbox was like, well, we can't just organize because we can gather the festival people, but the mobile DJs and the people that bought an SX, they're not going to get on board Rekordbox. So we have to do competition for Serato, and they did. And slowly but surely, they put the muscle behind their hardware to just take just a little bit away from Serato every year. Every year, they're just getting higher and higher. And so I think for Engine, they have to do the DVS type software. And so like you were saying, where they need to do the virtual DJ. And see, that was my point in the Engine Prime State of the Union, or the Denon State of the Union. I was saying that, if you want to make the next step and go from your 3 or 4% market share up into the 12s, you need to do a DVS type software or complete what Engine Prime is. And a lot of people got mad at me. I like doing the videos because I want to ask questions, because I think a lot of the DJ sites on YouTube, whatever, they're just like, here's some software, here's some hardware, these are the new updates. And I'm like, everybody's doing that. I don't think that's useful
Mhm.
So I want to. Sometimes I'm being extra provocative. Like I did the video I did today is about Apple, the headphones, the new headphones,
Oh yeah,
the
the 500.
AirPods. Yeah.
I mean,
So
we can't get a cord.
I
You
kind of
know?
I kind of ripped it, but like I was just pointing out, like these are the things that as a DJ I would look at this type of stuff for.
Yeah.
And so, and that's what I was trying to move past it. Here's some new gear and start asking the questions. Well, how does this gear affect the future for DJing? How is this gear going to make you DJ better? Or, is this company even going to be around in 5 years based on what they're putting out to the product,
Right.
the product to the market? So
Mhm.
that's just my take on this kind of stuff. And like some people get mad because I think a big issue for DJs is they're very territorial. So if you use Serato and you got a Pioneer thing, Serato and Pioneer are the only thing that matters, and they're the greatest things of all time, and they
Mhm.
make no mistakes.
You know,
And
we're gonna like but that is true. Although like with Record Box, it's now subscription based. Like for the most part, but
yeah,
you're saying like Denna may need to go DVS, but that's
hmm
so they killed their turntable, the one that I think it was
yeah,
the V12, but
yeah,
then
the
they went
V12.
and but then they went and bought Stanton DJ, right?
It's like I can't figure out what they're doing.
Right. I think the owner, the CEO of N Music Brand actually used to work at Stanton. So he was.
Okay. Oh, so
I
he's trying
guess
to
he had a
save it.
love affair or something, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
they're making like the 6000M. They're making these sort of like CD turntables that are
hmm
vinyl, that are motorized. So they're thinking, hey, but then you do make a good point, because the DVS sort of like functionality, I can see that coming along, because why buy Stanton, if you're not going
hmm
to incorporate? They're picking off they're making all these acquisitions to
hmm
build. I think they really want to compete with Pioneer, and they're acquiring these companies to actually compete with
Yeah.
Pioneer. So I think I think that may happen. Now, let me ask you this, because again, we have Record Box. I
hmm
have like a pro version, so even though there's like it's now subscription based, I guess for the newbies,
Yeah.
I understand the subscription base. It's just like you don't have you sell hardware, you sell it once.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
updated from the 2000 Nexus to now the 3000. Not quite sure why that came out in the middle of a pandemic, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But so now you have this, subscription based software, and not all
hmm
Pioneer controllers work with its own software now, because it's
Yeah.
subscription based, and it's like, oh well, you need these specific types of controllers to work with the latest version, which is subscription based, of Record
hmm
Box. What do you think about sort of like softwares, like especially DJ softwares, going like to the subscription based side? Do you think that's a viable model, like for DJs in the DJ industry anyway?
I think they had no choice in the matter because I look at it like this. I don't think there's enthusiasm to be a DJ as much as it used to be a couple years ago. Just from
Really?
not from us, from the hardcore people who DJ, people who
Hmm.
make a living from it for sure.
Hmm.
But I think that the person in their bedroom, the little kid who wants to get a little controller so he can play on his iPad or whatever. I
Hmm.
don't think there's not a lot of energy for that anymore like there used to be. A couple years ago, uh, it was heavy, and a good chunk of Pioneer's business model was selling the beginner controllers,
Yeah.
the little tiny the 4000 and I
Hmm.
mean the 400 and that kind of stuff. That was the bulk of their business model was the little controllers, and then they got a festival DJ here and there, and pro DJs that do weddings or whatever they'll buy Nexus 2000s whatever. But the bulk of their model is still a good chunk of it is still the beginner thing. That's not sustainable if there's a fall off, or you have the competition is digging into your market.
Right.
So for these companies, think about it like this: for Record Box and stuff, and Serato and Tractor, whatever, they can't just make, oh, this is a new update and we did bug fixes. They need to do a new update that's got AI built into it. They got to do a new update that, well, we do this new STEM thing that it's video and whatever. They can't just be stagnant and just fix the software, and that costs money, research and development. So, I think in order for them to stay competitive, they have to keep bringing in money. They can't just have the one-time thing. Because before, Rekordbox was giving their license, you buy anything from Rekordbox,
You
any
got it.
Pioneer gear,
Yeah.
they're buying, giving you a license.
Right.
And so now they got to make that money back. And I just thought, I've been complaining about it. I thought it's going to happen eventually, and it came through. Serato is next,
You
and
think
Tractor is
Serato's
probably
going to go subscription based?
absolutely. And the reason why I say this is because remember the Serato Studio when it came out? Subscription only.
Yeah.
They tested the waters, and the audience was lost their minds.
They did.
Everybody was screaming at them in the forums. And they're like, oh, no. It's subscription, but you can still pay it one time for, it was like 160 something. I can't remember what it was.
Right.
But like you could buy it one time. They tested, they put their big toe in the water, just the subscription for Serato, and it kind of blew up in their face, and they're just biding their time. And now the Record Box did it, all the more reason to go forward, because where they're gonna go.
Okay, so I want to dig into a little bit of this whole subscription model, and because I have like I don't know if I want to call it a pet peeve or not, but
I don't like it at all. I hate it.
yeah, okay, so you have Tidal that's now integrated with Rekordbox, Serato, Denon DJ, even Virtual DJ.
Yeah.
You also have Beatport Link that's integrated with the three majors as well. I'm not quite sure about Virtual DJ. And then you have something called Beat Source Link, which is, I think it's owned by Beatport.
Yeah, it's the same company. They split it in half for dance music and top 40 type music.
Right. So Beat Source is top 40, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's my thing, right? Okay, so and I've spoken about this on my podcast so many times because like logically it makes a lot of sense. I mean, and I don't understand why people just don't get this. But okay, so you have Tidal, which is like just the premium is $9.99, $10 a month, right? And you have 60 million plus tracks on Tidal, which is a true streaming service. You can download an app and listen to 60 million plus songs anywhere you go. You can be on the subway, you can be on a bus, you can be in a different state, a different country. You can still listen to that. Now you have something like a Beatport Link. They're calling it a streaming service. And, the highest plan is like $45, $50. And, you have this like, 100 track, offline locker. I don't get that model. I mean, like, how I don't understand like how a company like that can just have the balls to say, you know what, our service is we're going to charge $50 a month for our service with 5 million to 8 million or 9 million tracks, and people are going to love it. It's DJ specific, yada yada yada, right? And people not understanding that, hey, those tracks that are exclusively on Beatport for 30 days, a real like producer, a real record label will understand that, okay, you can be exclusive for 30 days on Beatport, but we're definitely going to Apple Music. We're definitely going to Spotify. We're definitely going to Tidal. I don't get that whole model. I mean, explain that to me. Like, how does that? I mean, I don't know which service you use. I use Tidal all day.
Yeah.
I love like the liner notes. I just I just love the whole package of Tidal, and it's $10. So, explain how can a company provide a service like that for $50 when probably the number one or number two streaming service is doing the same thing for $10 a month.
Well, that's the thing. I think Beat Source was supposed to be designed from DJs, and so they're trying to focus on building up a thing for DJs. So like I totally agree with that. And my issue, or what I told them, because after I did my video about it, they reached out to me. So I kind of talked to them about my feelings about it. And I was like, I like the idea of it. 100 song limit is no good for me.
No.
I can't vibe with that because
Mm-mm.
I'm a mobile DJ. I'm in places where internet is shoddy at best.
Right.
And so like if I can't pull a song off of my phone, well, I don't have that song. And so like if I'm going to rely solely on your company, this can't be. And so like I think that, and I'm not going to knock them for this, because I think that the way they explained it to me is that it's a licensing fee to just get it in the first place, and it's a separate licensing fee for you to have a locker thing. And it's not so much them, it's the record companies trying to preserve Spotify and these other companies because they have separate deals with them. And Beat Source is like the new kid on the block, so to speak, because Beat Source is definitely, it's post locker. It's been here for a while.
Right.
And
You know,
yeah,
they bought Post Locker, you know,
they
but you
tried
know,
to do the thing.
you make a really good point. So okay, like if it's like, okay, well, we have to pay a licensing fee for this here and then that, then I mean, you're not a streaming service, because these streaming
Yeah,
services, like the majors want to be on these
yeah.
true streaming services. You know, to say
And,
that, oh, it's a cost for this here and a cost for that, and then we're going to push
yeah.
that off to the consumer, that doesn't make any sense to me. You know, it's just like, no, that doesn't
See, the
make any
thing,
sense.
I can't speak for them. I'll just say, like, I
Hmm.
talked to them, I reached out to them. They really cool dudes, and they made sense about what their plan is and where they want to go. They definitely do not want to have the 100 song limit, and they're trying to get it unlimited, or at least in the thousands or whatever. So I was like, okay, cool. I don't know what their timetable is, so definitely, like, if I can't speak for them on their behalf. I don't like the idea that I can't own the song. I never liked that, and I've complained about it in multiple
Hmm.
videos about it. Like, I don't like that concept to me. And I give the analogy of uh, Taylor Swift has a publishing problem with Scooter Braun,
Yeah.
and so she's trying to remove all her songs from all the streaming services so
Hmm.
Scooter Braun doesn't get paid. So if you had to play Taylor Swift songs off Spotify, you could have problems in a short little while. And so because you don't own the songs and you don't have a separate license fee to pay play the songs in clubs or bars or whatever, you don't really have control over what happens to the song. So like that's always been like a thing gnawing away at me. And I don't like it. But like for Post Locker in particular, they're trying to get to that point. The way the issue isn't really so much Post Locker. I think they had to launch with what they had at the time because you got to get it out. You got to make
Got
your
to get it out.
movement there.
Hmm.
But I think the issue really is the cavemen at the record companies. And I say this as somebody who sat across the table from VPs who
Yeah.
have no idea what the who their artists are signed to their label. They don't know what kind of music they make. They have no idea what kind of people want to listen to their music. They have no idea what kind of music they should buy, when they should release. They have no. They're completely separated from the industry as a whole, and these are the people who are making the decisions on there. Like
Yeah.
I was shopping beats and going to record labels at the height of Napster, and I was sitting down in a meeting with the A&R. I don't want to mention names, but like I was sitting in a meeting with the A&R over at Universal, and I was like, dude, USBs are going to be a problem.
Yeah.
You guys need to get on this. And this guy goes, this thing it'll wash away. Everyone wants to buy a CD and look at the liner notes. And I was like, no, there's a whole generation of people coming on
Hmm.
that don't respect the liner notes and the feeling of going to the store. They just
Right.
want the music.
Hmm.
And so this is the reason why they weren't prepared for Vivo for the music videos. They
Hmm.
weren't prepared for Spotify, and it's just over and over. They just kept getting flat footed. They caught not prepared for this thing.
That's
And
true.
currently, this streaming thing, I have a video coming out about it. I think tomorrow I'll probably post it up about how record companies are planning to make it a felony to play music on Twitch,
Hmm.
but they're going to pay TikTok stars to make viral videos with their songs on it. I'm like, you don't understand anything.
I mean, you know, okay, let's get into this. So, because I was about to ask you about this, because again, I saw one of your videos and you spoke about streaming. You spoke a little bit about this whole Twitch thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we're in a pandemic. We
Yeah.
as DJs, we can't DJ out. I can't DJ at lounges and
Mm-hmm.
hotels and things like you can't do corporate events, right?
Yeah.
And so now we needed this outlet and we tried to do, just like it all started out with just doing a DJ set and posting it on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube. And then, the YouTube copyright police would come
I
by
just
and ding you.
snatch it down. Yeah.
And then how I understood it with Twitch, and I still don't understand it, is you can do a live stream playing music, you just can't repost it. That's how I'm understanding it. That's what, just reading through some things. But, now you have, Mixcloud, who actually paid the licensing fee to all these
so they have
majors.
permission.
Yeah, so you can play whatever you want to. There is a fee. You have to pay $15 a month for this. But if if you're heavy into it, it may work out. I think the problem with Mixcloud is it's DJ specific. So even like when if you're really popular on Mixcloud, you're popular within the DJ community, not within.
You're preaching to the choir, basically.
Right, exactly. So, something like Twitch. And I don't understand like how, Jeff Bezos just, a bazillionaire, it's just like, dude, just pay like the licensing fee and then maybe you can make some money off of advertising. So where are we with this whole the streaming wars? How is that going to work out for us?
Did you know how this thing started with Jeff Bezos? He got called into Congress and they're like, hey, you're not paying anything for the stuff they're playing on your thing. So it's like, oh, crap. I guess we got to do some kind of licensing deal. That was it. That's all that happened. That's as simple as that. So like my issue, and I have some friends. We were heavy into the versus stuff with Timberland and Swizz, and so when they started doing that, they had a lot of artists. They're going back and forth. They got permission to play these songs on Instagram, whereas the regular person they will get in trouble for it, or it may like hurt their views or it being reached out to other people. And same thing with D Nice. He got permission.
I was about to ask you that. I was about to ask you that. Like, okay, so you said like the verses, like Timbo and
Swizz, yeah,
Swizz, yeah, they got permission, right? And I'm just like, Oprah sort of endorsed D Nice, so I'm thinking like, okay, this guy is doing sets. He's getting like all these views. It's just like. How is he able to do this? So it's a little gray area where some privileged people are able to do that and others aren't.
Absolutely. It's a privileged thing for higher end DJs and that kind of thing, where even they have issues playing their own songs. But the thing is, though, for D Nice, he got permission. He made a call, or Oprah made a call to Zuckerberg. It was like, hey, let this guy through. He's helping us during the pandemic. So, he got through. And I think Timberland and those guys, they got permission from Instagram to be allowed to be on the platform. And so for your local regular DJs, you don't have these luxuries here. and my issue with verses on Instagram and just the whole thing, because when D Nice started doing it wasn't even D Nice that started it, but when other DJs started making it popular to do the streaming on Instagram, they used to cut them off with like 20 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever. And it was a gray area. They allowed them to be there, but as long as they weren't too popular, or as long as they were famous enough that it would be fine.
Right.
And so it's on a platform where I got to use it on my phone and I got to prop it up somewhere. I'm like, this could be amazing if I could just put it on my TV, or I could just send it off to my Sonos speakers or whatever. And so like I couldn't get into the streaming thing on Instagram, and then I looked over at Twitch, and Twitch was like, okay, you can do it, but you can't save it. And a lot of people who are on Twitch are gamers, and they have, they have young females who are putting on body paint, so or people
Yeah.
that look at their cleavage. Like that,
Mm.
that Twitch is between gamers and cleavage, and then DJs slowly started making their way over there.
Right.
But we haven't fully brought our audience over there too. So like the king of all this should be YouTube, because YouTube has their YouTube Music. They try to take over the app. They have all the licensing things already to allow these things to be on there.
Mm-hmm.
That should be the place to be to do these things. They have the streaming services already. Everybody has YouTube on their smart TV. You got it on your phone, you got your tablet, you got it on your computer. I think YouTube should be the go-to place, and you can make money from it.
Yeah.
The issue is nobody wants to touch this third rail because they're still the record companies are still in the Stone Age, and they only want to allow certain people to have access to the catalogs. And this drives me crazy because we're not in the years of the Napster and Kazaa and all that stuff. We're in the years of, oh, hey, I like this song. Let me pull out Shazam. Let me figure out what this song was. And then I'm going to download this album on Tidal or Spotify. And now this artist is getting revenue from me. And I'll go to their concert when we can go to concerts again. Like that's where we are right now when it comes to discovering music and paying for music. So we're not at that point where everybody's bootlegging and everybody's stealing. We're at the point where having the DJs on these platforms and allowing them to discover music for people, that's the best way to help these artists get out because, and this is a pet peeve. I know I'm going on a rant right now, but my pet peeve with Spotify. Spotify is a Ponzi scheme.
And what I mean by that, Ponzi scheme.
Absolute. From Beyonce gets paid, Taylor Swift gets paid, 1%. And well, Jay-Z's not on there anymore, but like those kind of artists get paid.
Yeah.
Everybody else with 100,000 streams, you are getting pennies on the dollar, if that.
That's it.
So I saw this article. It's like for this year, 80% of artists made $200 from Spotify. 80%.
Yeah.
Where did the money go?
Yeah.
The money went up to Beyonce and it went up to Taylor Swift and Katy Perry or whatever. It went to those people. And all the artists that keep Spotify afloat, they got peanuts. They've been sued multiple times for over $1 billion, some of the lawsuits, and they had to settle the stuff out of court, but they haven't changed their payouts. Because I think Tidal is the best one for payouts for the artists. I think Beat Camp and I can't remember what the other one is. Like they're decent. And then it's just
Bandcamp.
Yeah, Bandcamp. Sorry, Bandcamp. Right. Everybody else is on the bread lines eating pennies. Like
yeah, Spotify is the worst. I heard that. I think I may have read the same article, but the artists who gets paid on Spotify are the 1% of. So there's a 1% club. Just like the billionaires. It's just like the 1%. Everyone else, and then there was I can't remember. I think it was Rick Rubin who sort of like started this whole uproar or something like that. But someone was posting what they were making off the streaming services. Like this guy had like 140,000 streams or something like that. He made like $11.
It is ugly.
It's a complete ripoff. But okay, so you know what? And I thought about this often. So if we know that streaming services are ripoffs, and we know that Tidal's paying you the most money, even though it's like, pennies on a dollar still, right? So does that mean that, artists should, release their own music on their own platforms, on their websites? I mean, it's just like you need a platform like a Tidal, like a Spotify, like an Apple Music, like an Amazon Music to project your music, to put your music out there to the masses. I remember when Prince finally was released from his label, he released his albums on his website and sold millions. Right?
Yeah. He did better than he did when he had a record deal.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, And also, the UK government is actually, doing an investigation into some of these
Yeah,
streaming
they're looking into it
services.
right now about
Right.
the payouts for how come it's not proportional to all the other artists.
It is a
But
straight, that's a really good, calling it a Ponzi scheme. It really is a Ponzi scheme,
well,
you know.
they cannot afford to pay everybody correctly. And
Right.
so they're just hoping that the people with 100 streams and the people with 100,000 streams, that they just think, well, this is how it's supposed to be,
Right.
instead of getting into a class action lawsuit and dealing with it. Because
Yeah.
if they pay, Spotify has heavy overhead. And there's an article that came out a couple years ago when they became the biggest streaming service. And they got in trouble because a lot of the VPs were throwing parties with like cocaine and hookers and all kind of craziness
Yeah, I heard
and
about
buying
that.
mansions and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so they they were using all that money to go party and not paying out the people. And that's
Right.
how they're into this predicament where they can only pay the people who matter, who have the lawyers to kind of force it. And so like it bothers me because we can't get into this proper area where DJs can do their thing and make money, or at least promote. Even if you're like, okay, well, you can't get money because this is someone else's IP. Okay, fine, but at least you're able to play it and promote other artists on these other platforms. But we can't even do that.
Mhm.
And I think that we kind of have to work these lawsuits out and kind of not necessarily break up the industry, but kind of force them to do the right thing. And I don't know when that's going to be. We've got to look at the new administrations, and who knows. I think the new administration is probably going to be favorable into the way it's going on for the higher companies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's just my views on it.
Do you think that because of this, and again, a company like Spotify is sort of a Ponzi scheme. Apple Music and Tidal and all the
Mm,
others, they have their flaws as well. Do you
yeah.
think this is an opportunity, a lane, an opening for another company, a new company even, to come out on the
Mm,
scene and does something that's a bit more equitable for the artists and the companies? I mean, because the thing about these streaming companies is,
yeah.
they need the power of servers to get this
Yeah.
music into so that consumers can stream it, like, millions and millions, like, at the same time. So they need the power, the bandwidth to do this, so that costs a lot of money.
Yeah. To
So I
set
can
this thing up,
understand that. Hmm.
I think the issue is the overhead to start it, and then the licensing, because your first couple checks are going to hurt you for the licensing. And
Right.
after that, you can kind of figure it out. But if you're paying for the servers and the workers and all this stuff like that, you can't afford the licensing fees because, again, record companies have lost their ever loving minds
Mhm.
about how the internet works and how this stuff is useful for you.
Well,
And
not even necessarily, for to sort of create a relationship with the majors, but this is like this could be a platform, a service for new
mm,
artists, to
yeah,
come on and say, hey, almost like a band camp, but band camp is sort of loosey goosey as well, right?
yeah, like,
Um,
it's not polished enough to compete with the big
right.
boys, and I think
It
that's the
really isn't.
problem.
Mhm.
And so like it's kind of like, when you put your songs on Spotify, they kind of mix and master it so it's on the same level. So you don't have a song up here and another song way down there.
Right.
Like they're doing the little things to make it balanced. So when you're listening to Spotify, everything's together.
Mhm.
They say that you need the song to be mastered a certain way. It
Mhm.
needs to be at the certain bit rate. It
Right.
has to be a certain file size. Bandcamp is just like 128 bit rate, go.
That's it. Yeah.
Like, just
But
go. Like, so,
like people like you and I who like who come from the industry, even though we
mm,
may listen to some of this music like online, we do hear
yeah,
sort of things that aren't right. It's just like, oh, that song was compressed too much by the
yeah,
streaming services, because you upload those songs, they compress them some more, bring them down to like a just so they can be at a specific streaming level, right?
yeah,
The
yeah.
common user doesn't understand that. They don't understand that, oh, you're not listening to a great quality mixed a
Mhm.
song that was mastered properly.
Yeah.
through your earbuds or whatever, because, you're just, I don't like
Yeah,
to
you
say
just
it,
gotta
but
get
you're
the
just a
song. Yeah.
regular consumer, right?
Yeah.
In terms of music. But, people in the industry, we hear that. We're like, oh, okay, now that wasn't done properly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
me
Oh, I
ask
can
you
hear it.
this here. I see, like, in the beginning of a lot of your videos, most of your videos, you're like throwing wax on your turntable. So obviously you have a vinyl collection. You come
Mhm.
from vinyl, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I started on
Um,
vinyl like in the 90s.
right. So exactly, you come from vinyl. So there's this huge, I don't even want to call it huge, but there's always this sort of discussion within the DJ community about, DJ purists, only using turntables, only using a mixer,
Mhm.
not adhering to the technology that these companies, developers, programmers are providing for us to be more creative, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that whole I'm a DJ purist? Like, no, I'm okay with using the technology. I'm okay with using a hybrid of it. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think there's two parts to this because for me personally, I'm like, this is all technology to help you be better at your job. So if you want to use stuff, go for it. And like, there's a huge, I would say argument over sync. And sync is one of those things where if you're doing effects and stuff like that, you can just play the song and match it up, whatever. For me, I look at Serato with the little bars lining up as the same thing as sync because you're visually lining these things up. You're
Right.
not pressing a button, but it's
Mhm.
literally the same thing. You're not listening to this in your ear. You're
Right.
going like, oh, okay,
Uh-huh.
perfect. And you're going, or you're looking at the numbers and you're matching the number. Everybody does this.
Mhm.
And so for me, I made the argument that if you're going to line up your thing, if you don't close your laptop screen and you're just looking directly at the crowd, it's the same thing as pressing the sync button. So for me personally, I'm cool with embracing all of this stuff.
Mhm.
I don't have an issue with it. I I've used turntables. I had the CDJ 850s and I had some Nexuses, the 2000s.
Mhm.
And I sold my Nexus and I got a controller and I just used the extra money to buy camera gear because I'm a photographer. So, but um, for me personally, I like scratching and playing around with turntables, but I carry controllers and CDJs to gigs because they're heavy. I hate carrying them around with me. So like I was happy when a phase came out. I was like, okay, well, this kind of bridges both worlds where you can get the feel of the turntables. And then Denon came out with I think it's no 5000 was first, and then 6000. So they came off the motorized
Mhm.
5000. I was like, well, this is great. And I think Newmark had a motorized uh, controller type thing, and another
Yeah,
one. I'm
they
like,
did. That thing was heavy though, man.
oh,
It was,
it's
oh
very
my
heavy. The
goodness,
motor is
that thing was
heavy.
a tank.
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? Do what you love
Yeah.
that feels good for you. I'm not a purist in the sense that you have to use this and you have to DJ my way or whatever. I'm just comfortable mixing on vinyl because I started on vinyl. So when I do the stuff on Serato, it's just easier for me to, or even in Tractor, Tractor is kind of rubbery and it annoys me about that. They need to work on the algorithm.
Yeah.
But even when I'm mixing on vinyl on Tractor or whatever, I'm familiar with it. I like how it feels in my hands versus the plastic platter. But if I have to do a gig, I'm going to use the controller because it's just easier. So
Oh yeah.
for me, I'm
Mhm.
cool with ease of use, and I'm cool with doing whatever makes you happy for as long as you're trying to be the best at what you're doing. I'm cool with it. I made a video about like 3 or 4 years ago about fake DJs, and it's very controversial.
What's a fake DJ, by the way?
Well, I felt like your pro DJ and your fake DJ, your fake DJ is the person who doesn't put any effort into it.
Okay.
Type of person that, well, I'll just download this guy's playlist and I'm just gonna go get this song, this hard drive full of songs, and I'll just play whatever's in the folder. I
Right.
feel like that's the fake DJ.
Mhm.
I think that you could be a pro DJ just doing something on your phone. Like if you looked at Jazzy Jeff, if Jazzy Jeff pulled out a cell phone, an iPad or whatever, and started DJing on it, nobody would be like, "Oh, that's not the real DJ." They're like, "That's
That's
Jazzy Jeff."
innovative. It's like
Yeah,
he's innovative, you know?
yeah, exactly. You're like, "Yo, this
Mhm.
guy's breaking the floor. Like, he's doing something crazy." So, like, I
Mhm.
don't think it's the gear, and I don't think it's your level of skill. I think it's how much effort you put into the thing is that what separates you from real and fake. Because if you go to the dance music, you have DJs that they're literally playing a CD for their whole set,
Yeah,
and they're up there waving their hand like this,
right. You
and they're
know,
throwing cakes on the ground. I don't want to take
doing
shots.
the heart
Yeah, yeah,
sign
doing
and
the hard
everything,
thing,
just
but
like
yeah,
all that sort
exactly.
of craziness. It's like, what's weird? It's like yo, what's weird is David Guetta had like something like that
Yeah,
happened
he
to him.
got
He
caught
was up
out
there, he was
there.
like dun 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 dun, dun, and then all of a sudden they were like, dude, you're like, it's a CD, right?
Yeah.
um,
He got caught out there at a club, and
he got
The
caught
CD
out there in
started
the club,
skipping. Yeah,
you
the
know.
CD started skipping, and it stopped.
Yeah,
And he had to leave and come back with a laptop to finish the thing. He actually
wow.
had to physically leave the place and come back with a laptop because the CD stopped.
Well, if you look at so a lot of these are like DJs who sort of step out with hybrid systems,
Mm-hmm.
um, they're connected to softwares like Tractor when it was good,
Yeah,
Ableton, right? And
yeah,
then they have all of these devices connected to this software. So it's in the recording studio, stuff has to be synced up. So if you're like in a DJ
mm-hmm.
sort of setup, like, and you have all these different devices, there has to be a master and a slave. There has to be, same like
Yeah,
there is like on a master and slave clock in the
yeah.
recording
Some kind of
studio.
MIDI timeout from your
Right.
controller, or whatever. There's got to be something
Exactly.
there.
So they have to
Or
be
SIMD.
synced up.
Yeah.
So you are using sync there. Now, I'll tell you this about sync, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with sync. I came up with vinyl. I have thousands of pieces of vinyl. I have
Yeah.
turntables. I have a regular mixer. Um,
Yeah.
I've been DJing for like ever, um,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the feel of vinyl. I love that sound. I love the saturation of it. Sometimes I do vinyl sets as well, but the technology behind sync in the DJ world, not in the music production world, it's not
Yeah.
that exact. I
Yeah. Yeah.
mean,
You still got to do a little bit of work.
right, if you sync up two tracks in the DJ world, I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
still have to touch things. You still have to nudge left and right just to get it in the pocket that you want, right?
Yeah.
It's not like an exact sort of science with the sync button in the DJ world. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
completely okay with sync because sync again is another tool. I don't think that as a new person coming out, you
Mm-hmm.
should sort of use sync, like figure out like how
You got to
claps
learn.
and yeah, and kick drums, figure out how to blend some music, right, to beat match. But I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
DJs who have been out there, it's just like, hey, if you've been out there and you want to use a sync button, that now
Mm-hmm.
gives you the ability to use all the other creative tools around you, even knowing that science behind sync, the technology behind the sync button in the DJ world is not
Yeah.
100% precise. You're still nudging left and right to get it in the sort of pocket you want. So, you
Yeah. Like if you
know,
didn't analyze your song correctly, you're gonna have to figure that out. And
you
so,
know,
like, I don't look down on people who use sync.
mm,
I have an issue with people who are like, well, I'm not going to bother to learn this genre. I'm
yeah,
not going to bother to learn how to put these songs together and blend proper,
right.
mix it in the right place and that kind of thing.
Mm,
Because we have all these tools. If you have your BPM there and you have your little bar across the screen telling you where everything is, what is the difference? And nobody wants to answer that question because
right.
like it says like, oh wait, yeah, we are cheating to kind of do this thing. Everybody's using these little like your hot cues. These are all little things to help you get along faster. Because
Right.
before I used to spin the record around to find where I'm supposed to start it up, or
Right.
some people had tape on there or whatever, or the little
I love
sticker.
the tape.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, like
the
it was my
mhm.
12-inch. I'm only gonna use it for the thing. I used to put the the little piece of the dot right at the beginning of the song, so I
Yeah.
could just drop it on and then
Mhm.
go. But like I've been DJing so long, and I started with vinyl. We had a crew in high school, and we used to share a turntable and a mixer, and we had a belt drive turntable. And I don't know if you remember this. There was uh, it's like a Technique SL20 or something like that. It had rotary pitch,
Yeah.
so it wasn't like the slider thing like the 1200s. The rotary,
Yeah.
and so I had one of those and had a belt drive old school turntable,
Mhm.
and that's how I learned to blend for DJing. And so like I'm past that idea of using this stuff that to just do your thing faster is bad or evil.
Mhm.
I don't look at it like that. And I know that there's a lot of purists that are like they're pulling their hair out right now listening to this, and like that's fine.
Yeah.
Do whatever works for you. But I think DJs are too judgmental. You know, like how often have you been to a club or a bar and you start hearing some of the worst mixing and you just can't enjoy the night? Whereas
Yeah.
everybody around there, like, oh, this DJ's great. And I'm like, I just
Yeah.
can't do it. And I think
It's
we're a little bit too much judgmental. We just gotta let stuff be.
I was interviewing another DJ, and we were talking about how, because I came up in hip hop, but what I DJ
Mhm.
now is like a lot of deep house music, lounge and chill out. And he was
Yeah, yeah.
saying he's like a really prolific sort of deep house DJ producer, and he was like, I don't know, man.
Mhm.
Like DJs have like huge egos. It's just like
Yes.
it's just like
Yeah.
I'm the best, you know, and no one is better than me, and no, you can't find. No, I'm not telling you what the song is that I'm playing because
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want you
The
to
DJ
know.
AMO. Was
Right,
it the DJ AMO where you cover per thing?
right,
And yeah, like I feel like DJs are almost pretentious at the moment, and it's
yeah,
kind of off-putting to other DJs or even your own peers.
hmm,
Where we went from a moment like because I'm in Toronto, we have a lot of reggae and soca and all this other
right,
stuff. There's a lot of other cultures. So like when I play Punjabi music, I play Hindi music, I'm playing soca, I'm playing reggae, I'm playing top 40 and dance music all together in a single set. And everybody's happy because it's a mixture of cultures. But we had people coming up for reggae. It takes a lot of work to play reggae sets because you're playing all of these different songs that are the same beat,
hmm,
and you got to play them in the same spot and whatever.
right,
Like it's a skill,
hmm,
and you can't learn that skill unless you're around other DJs who are doing it. If you're in a crowd watching this guy do it, you're never going to learn because these guys are using 45s back in the day, and now they're using Serato. But
yeah,
it is a skill.
yeah,
I came up because I'm basically my friends and I we used to DJ top like hip hop and R&B in the early hours, so the reggae bad man can come on and play the
hmm,
reggae set, and all the people are like yo whatever. I can make fun of it because I'm Jamaican, but
hmm,
like those guys would come on and they would finish the set for the night. We were the early hours thing, so I used to sit there and watch these guys play their dub plates, the rhythms and whatever, and
they
just how
always
they
came
did
with
it.
the dub plates. I mean, like they
Yeah,
had the. It's just like, dude, where'd you get that from? It's like, oh, that's a dub plate. It came. It's like hot from the studio.
yeah, this guy called up somebody in Jamaica and had Beanie Man do a thing. Shout out to DJ whatever, whatever, and do a song specifically for him on a beat that you've never heard of before. And that's the thing of how these guys were. That's
Yeah.
how big you of a DJ were because you had these
Hmm.
dub plates and nobody else had. But like watching all these other cultures of how they played the music, whatever, was instrumental to me and how I play today. And you can't get that if you're looking down at everybody as they're all peasants and get beneath me and you can't hang out with me and you can't talk to me. You don't have the stuff like this.
Right.
This is where we're at right now because DJs used to be crews.
But you do have to admit though, as DJs, we do have there is a little bit of that in us as DJs,
Oh
right?
yeah, for sure. I'm not
Right,
gonna lie. I'm guilty of it. Sure. Like
right. It's
I
just like,
understand because I
dude,
visually
really?
see it.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, there have been times, plenty of times where, I would like I completely know that my skill set is like way beyond other DJs because I'm
Hmm.
just way better than them, and I'm not like just trying to like amp
Hmm.
myself up, but yeah, I mean, I understand the skill set, I understand what needs to be
Hmm.
done, I understand, how to read a crowd. That person
Yeah.
just may be popular, he may have like a really good name, like in that specific community or something. Here's something here I want you to explain to the people.
Hmm.
You said you do a lot of corporate events, right? I think
Yeah.
um, a lot of people who are thinking about, DJs who are out there, but really haven't figured out like the real business of DJing, right?
Hmm.
I have a lot of DJ friends who do exclusively corporate DJing and they make a boatload of money. Let everyone
Yeah.
know like how how do you get into that sort of like space, and is it lucrative to be in that sort of space? Because you have wedding DJs. I can never be a wedding DJ. I used to be a wedding
Yeah.
DJ. I've done weddings before, but I'm just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
again, it's just like that sort of attitude that DJs have. Like I'm definitely not going to be in a situation where someone is telling me what to play, right?
Yeah.
But the
Yeah. Yeah.
corporate DJ money that's some serious. If you can get into that space, it's serious. How did you get into that space, and you know is that lucrative? Is that a lucrative space to be in?
It's definitely lucrative, but you have to work.
Yeah.
And so, like the real thing for to get into corporate stuff is networking. And the secret to this is that a lot of corporate companies who book a DJ for a Christmas party or whatever, they hate that DJ.
Yeah.
They are terrible, and they just use them because this guy's been at the company for a while, or
Mm-hmm.
his family member, or somebody there, and so uh, a lot of my business has been from word of mouth. So I did. A friend of mine got me to do a couple boat cruises, and people came up to me and said, "Hey, do you have a business card?" And I never had a business card at first, and I used to be like, "Well, I have a phone. I'll tell you. I'll text you my number."
Right.
Never got any business from that.
Mm-hmm.
The second that I printed up a stack of 100 business cards, and anytime I did anything or I went out, I used to just hand them out to everybody. I'm like, hey, you need a
Mm-hmm.
DJ? You need a DJ? I do this. I can send you mixes if you need mixes. And so a lot of times for weddings in particular, and even for corporate stuff, a lot of people are looking for a DJ, but they don't know any DJs.
Yeah.
They don't know any DJs personally.
Mm-hmm.
And they may know like, oh, my nephew's a DJ, but he's got a little thing on his iPad. I don't want to use that guy for a corporate thing. So like
He
it's
comes
a
with
it's a
like
lot
two
of that.
iPhones and like
Yeah,
DJing or
exactly. They don't want to
whatnot.
embarrass themselves or whatever.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my business has come from just word of mouth of I did a gig and I went out when it's done. If everybody was dancing and having a good time, I went to everybody. I was like, hey, here's a business card. Hey, do you need a DJ for something? Look me up if whatever. And it's at that part of the hard work part a lot of people do not do. They'll
Yeah.
do their thing and they'll like go ask your friend, hey, if anybody needs a DJ, let me know, whatever. But they're
Right.
not personally going out and trying to talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference maker for how you get into corporate because everybody, I would say, well, not this year, but most people know somebody who works at a business,
Yeah.
at an office at a business. And most people know somebody who can make decisions out of it. They just don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of times where your aunt or your cousin or your best friend's brother or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
there's like 2 degrees separation between somebody who knows something. The best way to break into this thing is to let everybody know you're a DJ. And simplest thing first off is to make mixes.
Yeah.
Make really good mixes and let everybody know you got these mixes and not necessarily put them
Where do you put
online.
them so people can listen to them?
Exactly. That's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. I don't say necessarily put them online.
Mm-hmm.
What I used to do is for girlfriends and that kind of thing, I used to give them a mix and they would give it to their friends
Right.
and their
Okay.
friends would pass it to somebody else. And then,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like, oh, I need somebody. Oh, my friend's boyfriend, he's a DJ,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Because once people know that, oh, this guy's a DJ and they can hear your work, they're willing to vouch for you. And that's the
Right.
thing that nobody wants to vouch for somebody if they see you on Instagram, you're just doing a little scratch or you're posing with vinyl. nobody looks at that like, oh, okay, that guy's a DJ. I can trust him to do my wedding with this $30,000 wedding with all these things on the line. No one's going to trust you to do that. It's the hearing the mix and the word of mouth from other people vouching for you. Right. And it could be a hollow vouch. Like, I mean, it could be where I believe he's a good DJ, but I haven't necessarily seen him in person. But, you know, it's that one extra person that says, oh, yeah, that person's a DJ. And like they like, oh, well, at least you could hear this mix that he sent me or whatever, like that kind of thing. I think that goes a long way for you to break into this thing, because for business is all about networking.
Yeah.
I've gotten into, I did a boat cruise for somebody. From that, I got to do a thing for an insurance company. I got 2 weddings out of that insurance company. I got to do their awards ceremony and some other stuff just from the one thing, and me handing out a business card after. Just that alone, because they visually saw me DJ and they're like, oh, okay, well, that guy's okay. He can do what I want. And the other thing too, because Toronto in particular is multicultural, the fact that I can play other genres of music, and that's the reason why I push it higher than most people do. Because a lot of people just play reggae or just play top 40, whatever. Mm-hmm. But we have a huge population of Indian and Punjabi and that kind of audience there. Mm-hmm. And they respect people who play their music and play it properly.
Right.
And the same thing for reggae and soca. If you can play it properly, they're like, oh, okay, I can trust this guy. Mm-hmm. And then they've seen you visually and they're like, okay, well, I can tell the next person who's looking for a wedding or a DJ for their wedding or whatever. And I've done a bunch of Indian weddings, and I've gotten better at playing Indian music because of that. Mm-hmm. It's just it's a thing over here that people are not, it's a market that they're not dealing with. And even the Hispanic music, like reggaeton, merengue, that kind of thing, even that kind of stuff, people, they're just focusing on their one genre and they're not bothering to deal with these other groups. This is a wide open tap market that, you know, you can plant your flag on.
Yeah, that's so true. Let me say this here. You know, it's so weird because, you know, I did some corporate events, and you know, I'm a very specific sort of DJ, right? I mean, I you know, I don't necessarily like, you know, people who are paying me to tell me what to play, because I think that you're paying me to, you know, educate you on the type of music that I'm going to play. You know, you're paying me to entertain you. You're not paying me to, I'm not going to accept your money for you to tell me to play a specific genre of music. But I did these corporate events, but then I realized that, you know what, I took it to a totally different level. Well, not even a different level, but I said, you know what? I started looking into sort of these boutique hotels, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I was able to sort of not only do a one-off, but then these one-off became like 6-month contracts for like 3 or 4 hotels, right? So now I was able to not only, you know, DJ, but I had, you know, 3 to 4 hotels I was doing on a Friday and a Saturday. I was able to hire other DJs, choose the like sexiest hotel I wanted to play in on Fridays and Saturdays. And it's just sort of blossomed that way. So it was, you know, there are different levels of it, you know. I mean, I have a friend who is a serious wedding DJ, and he, before the pandemic, he was doing really well. Yeah. But things are like really, I don't know. Let me ask you this with the pandemic, you know, because I'm not quite sure how things are going to be once we are on the other side of this pandemic. Where do you see the industry, you know, once we're able to be back to some sort of a normal state of living for DJs?
I've been trying to get DJs to think about preparing for after the pandemic since January. I did a video of like, you should be alarmed about this and prepare in January. And I looked like I was homeless. Like I was stressed out about it, but I was like, yo, this is going to be a problem. And we need to be looking towards the future about what to do after. Right. I think there is going to be a heavy culling of the herd for DJs
Really?
come next year. Yes,
Hmm.
absolutely. Because a lot of DJs play in bars and clubs, and a lot of those bars and clubs are currently going out of business right
They're
now.
done. They're gone.
Yeah, and so there's going to be a lot
Hmm.
of places where you can't play in public or not in indoors in a large crowded thing,
Hmm.
depending on how the shot works out, or even if people want to take the shot. But like, I feel like you're going to have a smaller spot for where you can play and how. So, like, take for instance Toronto. Toronto had a huge club district that was like New York or any of these major cities where
Hmm.
for blocks and blocks it was just clubs,
Wow.
and they're underneath buildings and like just all over the place. They're all clubs. The city of Toronto leveled all of the club district and put up condos. And so now all the clubs in the city are on the outskirts of the city, or people have to adjust and throw their own private party in like a hall or some other type of venue. But like the actual club place in the city, there's only a couple of them left, and even those they're trying to get rid of. So all the DJs had to adjust. And so a lot of DJs started going into um, more mobile type DJ thing, doing weddings and that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And a lot of DJs just quit. So the market just shrunk down considerably. And I think that same type of thing here is going to happen where the place where you normally play is gone, or new management, they don't know you anymore. So you're either going to have to start over from scratch, or you're going to have to adjust what your business model was. If your business model was playing clubs and you had your residency and whatever, you're going to have to pull your audience and take them somewhere else,
Yeah.
and do your own event. uh, and you know what? You're gonna make more money that way anyway. It's higher risk, and I take a bath at doing my own parties, so I know, like it's hard work trying to get your own party booked and get people there, get them to
Very
come on
hard.
time. It's
You
hard
know,
work, and I'm not built
the
for that.
first month or two, you may have 4 or 5 people show up,
Yeah, absolutely. It is. You have to be consistent with it. I have a friend of
Yeah.
mine. He's a pianist and he does other stuff, and he built up this thing called College Street Bar. And basically, it was like a live night where he had his band there, and people would just come into the bar and they would do requests. And so the band would just play requests on the fly because he's a phenomenal piano player and he's amazing drummers and bass players. Like some of the best people in the city, they just come in and they can riff off of any of these songs and play. And so he built that up from, 5 people in there to, waiting list and people streaming it online and this whole other
Wow.
thing.
That's pretty
But
cool.
it started from the 5 people on there. And so like he moved his request live thing to bigger venues, and now he's doing better clubs now with it. And it's brilliant. Like that system is brilliant what he's doing. And DJs may have to do something like that where you bring your clientele up from the little thing that you have and then move it somewhere else, and you take your clientele, rather than, well, these people are just used to you going to this bar, and that's the local bar for the area, so they're going to
Right.
go there anyway whether you're there or not. That's a terrible
Hmm.
business model to have because you're
Yeah,
replaceable.
you are. But that's wow, this is I don't I'll say this, right? Um
Hmm.
that and you made a really good point, but DJs, you guys we have to start figuring out
Yeah,
how we're going to get back into the industry once this pandemic is up. So you have
yeah,
to really start like mapping out, where you're going to go, like who you're going to try to market your business to. If it's
exactly.
hotels, if it's corporate, like you said, have a business card, have like a DJ set that people can get to easily, um,
Hmm.
something like that, because eventually this will be over, and
Hmm.
things won't be back to normal because so many clubs and bars and lounges have closed.
Yeah.
So it's going to take some time before, you know every DJ can get back to like normal, in terms of like, okay, I'm doing one or two or three gigs a week. And,
Yeah.
I'm making some money. I'm able to provide for my family, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Like a person like yourself, you have a bunch of skill sets. So it's like, okay, well, I can't DJ, but I can still do my YouTube stuff. I'm a photographer. I can still do
Yeah.
my producing stuff. So it's like really, again, I think that because so many places close, we now have to be, as DJs, we now have to be even more strategic in terms of
Yeah.
how are we going to make, a living being a
hmm
DJ.
Yeah. It's not enough just to play two songs together.
Right.
You need a complete business model.
Mhm.
You need the marketing budget. You need plans. And a lot of people aren't thinking about it like that. I think they're still, well, it'll be fine. I'll be able to go back to my club and everything will be normal. I
Yeah.
will say this though, the younger generation is, I wouldn't say all of them, but a lot of them are like, I want to party. I'm old enough to drink now. So that
Mhm.
market's going to be open and available to you. So you may have
Yeah.
to try and reach them. Older
But
market, I don't know. I
but
don't know.
but the thing about those younger, like the younger crowd, is like, the, a lot of those DJs just aren't that great.
Yeah, well, that's
But
the other thing.
it's just like, hey, my friend is a DJ, so it's like, and you're out doing jello shots and all that
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
stuff, and
yeah.
it's just like, hey, we're having fun, and he's playing, music, he's going from one song to the other, or she's going from one song to the other, and
hmm
not to take anything away from those people, but that's how you build up your chops. I know how I came up, you know
Yeah, yeah.
I saw DJs who had crazy handles. DJs with crazy handles taught me, just
hmm
like, this is how you beat match. This is how you mix. This is how you
hmm
bring songs in, because the crowd is reacting this way at this specific time. So
Yeah,
again, I'm not quite sure how things are now, because I don't really
yeah.
do the whole the pop club thing, but
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I like a bit smoother and cooler.
You're out of it. I don't like doing the club thing either.
Yeah,
I like the corporate thing because I know what I'm gonna get and I know what they're gonna get.
yeah,
And so like they're like, play some music. We're gonna go do some shots at the bar, and then Sally from accounting is just gonna go wild for the night. So
right,
do that.
right, and she's also not gonna have a job the next day.
Yeah, exactly. Like I that's the thing. I'm used to that, and I think it's kind of made me soft because to deal with wedding stuff and all the request stuff, it's just it's tedious. Like
Yeah.
I'm just comfortable with everybody's like, oh, the DJ's here. Okay, cool. Everybody go drink. Like
Mm.
here's some drink tickets. Go party. And no one's really worried about, well, do you play some songs that's gonna make people dance or like do that? You don't have to deal with that. Everybody's just trying to have fun because it's been a long year and they got their bonuses, so like they're just trying to party. Like they're not worried
Right.
about what music you're
Exactly.
playing. And like
You know,
it's a different business model
yeah.
for
I know
sure.
some DJs, even now today, who are like traveling down to Florida and doing gigs. I'm just like,
It's
dude,
open.
it's not that serious, really. I'm
Yeah.
definitely not getting on a plane, and I'm definitely not going to Florida to do anything,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's just crazy out there. So that's not going to happen. But I just think that, you don't have to, possibly risk your own life because, you need a bag, because, I mean, it's just not that serious. It's just not.
Yeah.
Just wait it out. And I think that, when everything is back to normal, I think corporate gigs and hotels and things like that, that's going to be the place to sort of go. I don't know about what's happening in Florida, and I don't know what's happening in all
Yeah.
these other bigger cities that have like a much larger club scene. I know here in DC, the club scene is done. It's devastated.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. Oh,
done.
it's over. You can stick a fork in it. And it's the
Yeah.
same in Toronto. It's completely over. Bars and clubs are all shut
You
down.
think it's going to come back after the pandemic?
Maybe. I know for Toronto, we have a space problem. And so the faster the city could get rid of these places, the better for them. So they
Yeah.
can throw up condos. That's what they're really trying to do.
Right.